Hello, my dear students. Once again, you're welcome to the third session of the course Health Services Management. This session is titled Management Process in Healthcare Organization. As you understand, from level 200, management is a generic discipline that has evolved over several decades and a little over a century. This session is devoted to helping you understand the concept or the process as it has moved over time. We're going to cover two major topics in this session. First, we'll discuss management process as a topic. Second, we'll look at management functions. For management process, we would like to first of all understand management. You may have had different interpretations or understanding of the concept management. I believe that many of you may have at one point or the other responded to the question, how are you doing? And you say, we are managing, or I am managing, which means everybody in one way or the other is a manager. If this assertion is true, however, for the sake of formal studies and organizational setup, and purely for this course, we need to understand management from a scientific and professional point of view. So, management means different things to different people. Let's take a look at some few conceptualizations or some few definitions that have been given to the concept management. F.W. Taylor, one of the fathers of management or management science, or the person to whom scientific management has been attributed, defines management as what? As an act of knowing what to do, when to do, and see that it is done in the best and cheapest way. This is one of the oldest definitions of the concept management. That is his perspective. Mary Parker Follett, one of the mothers of management, also defines it as what? It's an art of getting things done through people. Paul Hesse and Kenneth Blanchard also conceptualize management as what? It's a process of working with and through individuals and groups and other resources to accomplish organizational goals. What is so unique about this? All of them are talking about what? Management is either an art or is a process. What do we mean by management is an art? It's an art because management involves creativity, it involves certain skills of the person calling himself a manager or the person in the position of management. It involves practical knowledge, it requires perfection through practice, and it also requires goal orientation. Management as a process ensures that it is not a one-time or one-off activity, but it's a sequence of events that collectively make up management. And for that matter, it operates and directs purposive organization through systematic, coordinated set of human efforts and activities. When we say management is a process, it consists of various aspects. First of all, there's a social process, there's an integrating process, and of course, there is a continuous process. Management as a process is social in the sense that, as I mentioned earlier, within the social order, or the last session, it is clear that management involves human beings, and human beings are social in nature. So, the interactions that takes place between people, the manager and the one who is managed, the superior and the subordinates and colleagues, those relationships are all part of the management activity or process. So, management is a social process in the sense that people interact in order to achieve the goals of the organization. Management as a process also means that there is an integration, or there's a form of integration. So, the job or the activity of bringing together people, resources, physical, virtual, money, and other things together to make sure that the goals for which the organization was established are achieved collectively constitute what we call the integration aspect of management, or the integrating process. And of course, management is a continuous process in the sense that organizations do not die out simply because one factor or one variable changes. People come into organization and leave. The organization has perpetual existence, or it is a going concern Whether people who started are there or not, the organization continues. The activities that started organizations are continued, and they are passed on to other people who take over the managerial activity. That is why many businesses today, Kolombo Teaching Hospital, for instance, was established as far back in the early part of the 20th century. We are in the 21st century, it is still there. All the people who started working there, none of them is still around. Even if some are alive, none of them are still working there. But the facility remains there. University of Ghana, for which you are a student, started as far back in 1948. All the pioneers of this facility or this institution no longer exist here as workers nor as students. However, the institution is here. Those of us who are here will pass out, the institution will still remain. So in that case, management as a process is a social process, is an integrating process, and of course, a continuous process. It is therefore important that we understand whether there is more than one variable or not. These process activities or the process aspect of management ensures that activities are carried out together with people and other factors towards attainment of the goals of the organization. Health service organizations, for that matter, are made up of a complex array of units or constituents of variables. So the management process that exists in the health service organizations need to be professionally understood to ensure that the ultimate aim for which these organizations exist are achieved. But for the purposes of this course, having understood all these perspectives to management, we will go with this definition, which has been presented to us by Rakik, Longes, and Dar as far back in 1999. They define management as a process that is composed of the set of interrelated social and technical functions and activities occurring within a formal organizational setting for the purpose of accomplishing predetermined objectives through utilization of human and other resources. In this definition, there are in this definition, it is laden with certain things, interrelated social and technical functions, which means that the social process that we talked about earlier is inherent. At the same time, technical functions, as much as people also relate with certain technical abilities. There must be precision with certain scientific processes. These things must be organized within a formal setting. So in this case, management for the purpose of this course does not occur within an informal setting. We are discussing management within the purview of formal settings. And the purpose for which these things take place is to achieve the ultimate aim of providing adequate and affordable health services to people, irrespective of the resources that we have. Just given the limited and the facilities and the resources that are at their disposal, management takes place to ensure that these human efforts, coupled with the resources, are integrated in delivering this ultimate aim. Having understood management, we now need to look at what constitutes managerial functions, or what we call management functions. Management as a process or as an art will take place only when there are certain activities. These activities collectively are what we refer to as management functions. Management functions has been conceptualized differently, just as the term management has also been defined differently by different people. When we take a look at Newman and Summer, for instance, they have 4 fundamental functions of management, which are considered as planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Similarly, one of the fathers of management, Harry Fayol, also considers it a management as the activity of forecasting, planning, organizing, commanding, coordinating, and controlling. Luther, Gallic, and Eric also define management functions with a very unique acronym, which is very popular in management and organizational literature as POST-COP, where P stands for planning, O for organizing, S for staffing, D for directing, C for coordinating, R for reporting, and B for budgeting. Having discussed all these things, there are certain fundamental connections between whichever classification each and every one of them has. Planning cut across, which has to do with looking at things in the future and devising means and ways of attaining those futuristic vision. Right. But for the purposes of this course, we will go by one of the most generally or widely accepted functions of management that have been classified by Kuhns and O'Donnell, which have to do with the 5 key managerial functions: planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and leading. And this, you can see that this circle, this diagram you have here, is showing clearly the relationship between these functions. In as much as all these managerial functions stand alone, they are all interrelated. All of them relate with one another. Collectively, they constitute this kind of interwoven relationship or interwoven diagram that you can see here. When you talk of planning, planning basically is the fundamental of all the managerial functions, because it talks about futuristic dimension of management. Is to picture or to vision or to conceptualize the future and find means and ways to ensure that that future that we picture, we are able to put together resources to attain it. Planning is very essential because we need planning to exercise judgment. We need planning to solve problems. We need to plan to take decisions. Anything that is done without planning is haphazard. And for that much, it leads not to most attempts do not lead to success. That is why it is very essential that planning is the first phase of every managerial activity. It is often said that whoever fails to plan is actually planning to fail, or failing to plan is basically planning to fail. So it is essential that planning is carried out. There are various specific ways which these things are done, which we'll look at later. Organizing is another very important activity. Organizing basically means that there are so many things, so many resources, so many activities, human beings that are brought together to function as a unit. Don't forget, we understood earlier that health service organizations are social units or open systems. These open systems are made up of various inputs. These inputs must be coalesced, must be organized, must be put together, must be integrated in a particular fashion to deliver the objective or the goals for which the organization are established. The activity or the process of putting together all these inputs, the human factors, the other resources, the money, and other logistics, in an orderly manner or in an orderly fashion to ensure that the right objectives are delivered or the right processes are put in place to deliver the expected objectives. This activity is what we refer to as organizing. So the processes of organizing or the function of organizing involve identification of activities, classification of these activities into groups, assignment of duties to individuals and other people, and delegation of authority and power in order to create roles of responsibility, and coordinating these authority and responsibility relationships in a fashion that will be very much acceptable to the organization and also delivering on the objectives for which the organization exists. Staffing is also another essential thing that has to do with the putting together the manpower of the organization. It has to do with planning the manpower, recruitment, selection, promotion, transfer, remuneration, rewards, release, discipline and discharge, transfer, and all those things, performance appraisal. All these activities collectively make up the staffing function of management. Directing has to do with leading. Leading is trying to mobilize people. It talks of leadership, focuses on motivation, focus on communication, supervision, all the sum total of activities that will help to model the behavior of people to ensure that the organizational objectives are not compromised or form part of the directing function. Of course, planning, organizing, directing, and staffing function cannot be complete unless there are controls. Humans and other systems are not robotic. Most often than not, open systems are not robotic in nature. That is the more reason that we need to put in guards or checks and balances in place to ensure that when directions are being lost, they are put in line. So controlling basically ensures that measurements are put in place against results. We set out to achieve one thing or the other. Have we achieved that? How do we know that? We need to set benchmarks to measure the actuals as against the expectations. So we set standards and we measure our results as against the standard. And if there are any deviations, corrective actions are usually taken to ameliorate the effect of this variance. Those are what we call controlling. So controlling occurs at various levels. Controlling activities has various generic stuff. You have to establish standards. You have to measure the actual results as against the standards. We have to compare actual performance with standards by finding out the deviations and if there are any. And of course, if these deviations are established or are found, we need to take steps to ensure that corrective actions are exacted. That is the essence of controlling. So, in summary, we've discussed the management process by looking at the various definitions, conceptualization of management, as well as looking at the functions or what activities collectively make up what we refer to as management functions. Thank you very much for your rapt attention. I look forward to meeting you in our next session. Thank you.